Hello, this is Tim Hellman.
And I'm Jake Tedpass.
And this is Movie Talk. Today we're going to review the movie Inherent Vice. Inherent Vice is director-writer Paul Thomas Anderson's new comedy-drama crime flick based on the book of the same name by Thomas Pynchon. It tells the story of a hippie PI investigating several different crimes in 1970, including the disappearance of his ex-girlfriend. It stars Joaquin Phoenix, Catherine Waterston, Josh Brolin, Owen Wilson, Reese Witherspoon, and many others. Anderson wrote and directed the movie, and it's the first feature film ever adapted from one of Pynchon's books. So, what did you think?
I don't know. It felt like a love letter from P.T. Anderson to me. And I know that's maybe just me being egotistical, but 1970 is like an amazing year for me in terms of like the music that was coming out, the last remnants of the counterculture were still there.
Yeah, they say it was the death of the huge hippie movement, kind of.
Yeah. Walking out, like my comparison was, it was like a cross between Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas, The Big Lebowski, and like Chinatown, or some old like 70s like film noir type movie. Like Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas, it's a movie about the death of the counterculture. It's like you're saying, it's a movie about what happened when people stopped believing that they could change the world and accepted that basically escapism was all that there was. I mean, obviously you've got this great setup where Joaquin Phoenix's character has lost his girlfriend to a rich capitalist real estate developer. I think his character in the movie sees like his loss of her as like his loss of innocence, his loss of belief in what he thought could happen with his life and with society, and clearly he's retreated into like a lot of drug use. And the drug use is funny. I mean, drugs are one of those ambivalent topics in movies in that they can be both depressing and they can be hilarious, much like in real life where drugs can be...
Martin Short is pretty funny.
Oh my God. Martin Short is hilarious in it. Josh Brolin is great, hilarious in it. Joaquin Phoenix's performance, I felt like, is super nuanced and very realistic to the point that you can't understand what the hell he's saying sometimes because he's
in like
so
every
bad.
single scene of the movie. Like,
yeah,
he definitely dominates the film.
They make everybody look as basically as physically repulsive in the movie as they possibly can. I thought Jenna Malone looked horrible. She had those like...
She looked really 70s-ish.
Well, bad prosthetic teeth and like that horrible story she tells about meeting Owen Wilson. The costuming was great. The music was amazing. I mean, I'll also admit that like the band Can, the German band Can, is like one of my favorite bands of all time. And the song they used over the credits is called Vitamin C by Can. And seeing Can used in a movie over the credits was like, filled me with a sense of joy that I can't even like describe. Like I was like, oh my God, I got so excited. And there's an amazing use of Minnie Riperton in one of the scenes where he's in the doctor's office slash his private detective's office. They use that great Minnie Riperton song, Les Fleurs. And it's equally interesting because Minnie Riperton was Maya Rudolph's mom, and Maya Rudolph is with P.T. Anderson. They're a couple.
Oh, I didn't know they were a couple.
Yeah, and then she's got a small role in the movie as a receptionist. So it's a little bit of an in-joke, and there's a lot of kind of funny little in-jokes going on. I know that you were not as big of a fan of it as I am, so...
Because I couldn't follow it. I didn't know what was going on, so it got really frustrating at times. And it can make it seem sort of paced and you don't know what's going on, too.
Yeah, I compared it to, I was telling my wife about it, and I was saying, it's a bit like when you get really, really high and you go to the store and you're intending to get like some chips or something, and then you get to the store and you can't find the chips, and then you forget what it was that you were looking for, and all of a sudden you're like, why did I even come to the store? I don't remember anymore. You get like confused, and there's a confusion about it, and I felt like the movie did a great job visually of representing that confusion in Joaquin Phoenix's mind on the part of the audience, because as an audience member, there are times when you're like, wait, didn't he originally just set out to find his ex-girlfriend? What's going on now? Like, why are we in this little subplot? But at the same time, it was all tied together in really interesting, neat, subtle little ways. And,
I read one critic that said it's a 2.5-hour long endurance test, which I kind of related to that.
I felt that way about The Master. I felt like The Master was an intentional endurance test for the audience. Like P.T. Anderson was just messing with the audience. I felt like this movie was really funny.
The way with this film, though?
Oh, no. I mean, I think it was long, and it was intentionally slow at parts, but like, I mean...
And it's intentionally confusing, too, I think.
I think that Thomas Pynchon's writing is requires a lot of work on the part of the reader. And I think similarly, P.T. Anderson transferred that into a movie, in that he made a movie that requires you to pay attention. And it's somewhat contradictory.
All movies should, but...
Well, I just watched Tinker Tailor Soldier Spy the other day.
I couldn't follow it first either.
That's a movie that requires a lot of attention also. I found this easier to follow than Tinker Tailor Soldier Spy. I also really relate to the fact that I think there was something magic in the air in the late 60s and early 70s.
Oh, yeah.
Like, the music was great. There was, like, cinema that was great that was going on at the time. There was a sense of, like, hope, like you could change the world. And so a movie about the death of that hope, which to me is, like, kind of what this movie is about. And yet, at the same time...
I don't think a lot of people would get that, though.
Maybe they wouldn't. And maybe it's that I'm obsessed with that era.
You're explaining that if anyone's watching this before they see it.
Yeah, I would hope that would be one of the things you'd walk away with. Because, I mean, come on, Josh Brolin's character is like the ultimate, like, representation of the 80s. Like, the 50s turned into the 80s. He's like got the 50s buzz cut, but he almost is like talking like John. I mean, he even describes him as John Wayne at one point. And he is. He's like a John Wayne, Ronald Reagan, 1980s Republican that, like, you know, he's funny as hell and likable as hell. And I actually found it really... Like
their relationship was really interesting too. Joaquin Phoenix and Josh Brolin.
It's like half friendship, half.
I know, because I was like, didn't these people hate each other, and now they seem kind of like friends almost. It's like they had a weird respect for each other, even though they hated each other.
And I think they do. They do kind of like loathe each other, but on the other hand, they're kind of the closest thing that the other one has to like a good friend and somebody that is like an intellectual equal.
So what rating would you give it?
4.5 out of 5 stars. He did exactly what he set out to do. I thought it was funny. It wasn't as over the top as Big Lebowski. It wasn't as like laugh out loud funny as Big Lebowski. But even Big Lebowski or like Boogie Nights reward you with more viewings, and you like them the more and more you watch them. I definitely think that the third time I watch Inherent Vice, it's going to be way funnier to me than it even was the first time.
Yeah. I give it 4 stars.
We will have to watch it together at some point, I think. And
I think it would be cool to see a high and experience it that way.
Although I don't know if it's going to be any easier to follow.
No, it might not be, but still, it's the type of movie.
You got to pay attention to that.
Type of movie that would get you in the right mood for it, at least.
Sure, absolutely.
Yeah.